Straight into one of the really big geopolitical and financial debates happening right now, the BRICS alliance.
That's right.
We're talking Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And, well, they're making waves, aren't they? Especially with this incredibly ambitious idea, maybe controversial too, a common currency.
That is exactly what we're digging into in this deep dive. We're sifting through the sources to figure out, what's really driving this proposal.
Uh-huh.
We want to look at the potential global shockwaves if somehow they actually pull it off. And then, crucially, do a reality check. What are the massive hurdles here? Because believe me, there are hurdles.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. We should probably start with the basics just to ground ourselves.
Good idea.
BRICS. It started as BRIC back in 2009. South Africa joined a year later, making it BRICS. Essentially, it's an alliance of these huge emerging economies. They're focused on economic stuff, political cooperation, trade.
And their combined clout, well, you just can't ignore it. Together, they've got roughly 40% of the world's population.
40%. Wow.
And something like, what, a quarter of global GDP? Maybe a bit more now.
Yeah.
They really represent a significant economic bloc outside the traditional Western G7 countries.
And they haven't just been talking. They've actually put some concrete things in place. The biggest example has to be the new development bank, the NDB.
Right, the NDB.
Which they specifically set up to fund infrastructure development projects, mainly in member countries, but also looking beyond.
And what's really, really crucial about the NDB, I think, is what it signals strategically. This whole alliance, it's explicitly designed to, well, rebalance global finance.
Rebalance how?
By challenging the dominance of the existing Western-led institutions, the ones, the IMF, the World Bank,
And SWIFT.
and definitely the SWIFT payment system, yeah. Critically important. They want to promote what they call South-South cooperation and basically get more economic independence, genuine independence.
Okay, so if that's the big picture goal, more financial independence than the biggest tool they have or the biggest push is this idea of de-dollarization.
That's the absolute core economic driver here. I mean, for decades, the U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency.
Right, everything priced in dollars.
Pretty much. Especially vital things like oil. It's priced, it's settled in dollars, so if you're a country trading internationally, you just need dollars.
Yeah.
And that forces reliance on, well, U.S. financial stability.
It makes you vulnerable.
Exactly. Vulnerable to U.S. sanctions, U.S. policy decisions. It can be quite painful for some countries.
Which is precisely why all this recent talk about a common BRICS currency has gotten so much attention, isn't it? It feels like a direct strategic response to that vulnerability.
It absolutely is.
We've seen specific leaders, Russia, Iran, Brazil, notably, actually publicly floating the idea, advocating for it.
And the analysis suggests the benefits, if it happened, would be pretty transformative for the members. I mean, a shared currency could drastically simplify trade between them, lower the costs, and crucially, severely cut down their dependence on the dollar. It would act like a massive financial shield against outside sanctions.
And it's not just talk, is it? I mean, instead of waiting for some perfect single currency, sources are saying they're actively building alternatives already.
That's right. They're testing things like the BRICS Pay system.
Or BRICS Pay. Right.
It's a payment system meant to be, kind of foundational piece.
Yeah.
Part of an alternative shared financial infrastructure they're trying to build.
Okay, so this brings up a really big question, maybe for you listening. What if they actually succeed? Let's game this out a bit. The what if scenario. What's the real global impact if a BRICS currency somehow launches and gets adopted?
This is where it gets really fascinating, I think, because we're not just talking about one currency replacing another. It's potentially about, fundamentally restructuring how the world does trade in reserves.
Okay.
So if a BRICS currency really took hold, the financial world could shift towards a truly multi-currency system, instead of the dollar being king.
King of the hill, yeah.
You'd likely see real competition. The U.S. dollar, the euro, the Chinese yuan, and this new BRICS currency, all vying for influence. And that kind of competitive environment, well, it would almost certainly weaken the dollar's global dominance over time.
And for the BRICS members themselves, the upside seems pretty clear. Lower transaction costs, easier trade.
And the ability to manage their economies with much, much greater independence from, say, U.S. Federal Reserve decisions or Western monetary policy in general.
That freedom sounds powerful.
It is. But freedom needs trust, especially in finance. And this new currency, it could gain stability, potentially, if it were backed by something tangible.
Like what? not just other currencies?
Well, experts close to the discussions, they often mention backing it not just with a basket of the members' own currencies, but with key commodities. Gold, maybe energy, oil.
Ah, commodity backing. That's interesting.
Yeah, that commodity backing could potentially build international trust pretty quickly, especially outside the Western financial system.
Okay, those benefits sound huge, massive even. But let's be practical. How fast could something like BRICS pay or even commodity backing really erode the dollar's dominance? I mean, U.S. markets still offer incredible liquidity, stability. That trust factor you mentioned, it's critical, isn't it?
It is absolutely critical, and that's precisely why this whole common currency idea is, for now at least, mostly aspirational, maybe even a pipe dream like you said earlier.
Right.
It sounds great on paper, resilience, independence, fantastic. But now we really have to pivot to the stark reality check.
Okay. Yeah, this is the crucial part of the deep dive, I think, because while the potential is exciting to talk about, the obstacles, they aren't just big. Some of them look, well, almost structurally insurmountable, at least in the short term.
The problems really fall into, I'd say, three main buckets: political rivalries, institutional gaps, and economic differences.
Let's start with politics.
Okay, the sources we looked at consistently flag the difficulty of trust. And the biggest single obstacle, mentioned again and again, is the tension between India and China.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, how can you realistically expect two nuclear powers, countries with active border disputes, deep strategic rivalry, how do they suddenly agree to share a central monetary policy, pool their financial sovereignty?
It's incredibly hard to imagine.
It just requires a level of political unity, of trust that, well, it just isn't there right now.
Exactly. And that leads right into the second bucket, the institutional gap. It's often useful to compare BRICS with the Eurozone here.
How so?
Well, the Euro works despite its own challenges because the member states actually ceded a lot of their financial sovereignty to the European Central Bank. They agreed on unified interest rates, centralized regulation, fiscal coordination to some extent.
There's a whole structure there.
A massive structure. It means Eurozone members have to aim for similar inflation targets, align their growth models, things like that.
And BRICS has none of that.
Pretty much none of it.
Yeah.
There's no single unified central authority. Trying to coordinate fiscal and monetary policy across 5 nations with, frankly, totally different political systems and wildly different economic priorities, it's an administrative nightmare. And politically, it seems impossible without a huge shift in how these countries view national control.
Okay, so political rivalry, institutional gaps.
Yeah.
What was the third one?
Economic variance.
Yeah.
The sheer economic differences between the members.
Right. They're not similar economies at all.
Not at all. Think about Russia, heavily reliant on selling commodities, oil and gas. Compare that to China, the sort of global manufacturing hub. Or India, with its massive services sector.
Brazil, South Africa, also very different profiles.
Very different. They have completely different inflation rates, different growth patterns, totally divergent national economic policies. Trying to harmonize that into a single currency zone, I mean, it took Europe decades to get the euro working, and they started from a much more similar baseline.
And we have to keep coming back to that trust factor, don't we? Despite all the geopolitical shifts and talk, global markets still overwhelmingly trust the U.S. dollar. Why? Because of that unmatched liquidity, the depth of the U.S. Treasury market.
The underlying legal system, predictability.
All of it. Until the BRICS alliance can somehow offer an equivalent level of stable trust and, legal predictability, you're just not going to see a rapid, large-scale move away from the dollar. It's too entrenched.
So putting it all together, what's the realistic outcome here? Well, current reporting, including statements from key leaders, I think Russia, India, they've actually publicly said a single BRICS currency is not on the table right now.
Not actively being pursued?
Not in that form, no.
Okay.
Instead, the focus seems to have shifted quite intelligently, I think, to a more achievable strategy.
Which is?
Radically increasing the use of their own national currencies in bilateral trade.
Okay. So India paying Russia in rupees, maybe Brazil settling trade with China, using yuan or real, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. That, combined with building out those alternative payment systems we talked about, like BRICS Pay, that seems to be the current executable path forward. Not the moonshot currency, but practical steps.
Right. So let's try and wrap this up then. The core conclusion seems to be BRICS is definitely a powerful economic alliance. They've proven they can act together with the NDB.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
And they are successfully pushing for greater use of local currencies. They are managing to rebalance global finance slowly, chipping away at that dollar dependency. brick by brick, as you might say.
But that big dream, the maximalist idea of a single, unified BRICS currency, it just faces these huge hurdles, political rivalries, especially India-China, deep economic differences, and those big institutional gaps. It just makes it highly unlikely, doesn't it? At least anytime soon.
Very unlikely in the near term, yes.
So for now, BRICS will likely keep pushing on those alternatives, local currency use, new payment systems. They'll continue being a geopolitical force, shaping things, even without a shared fiat currency.
It's more like a slow, tactical evolution, maybe,
Sure.
rather than the sudden financial revolution some people imagine.
Indeed. Okay, and that brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Uh-huh.
We talked about that idea of a common currency potentially being backed by commodities, gold, oil. Now, what if the BRICS alliance manages to successfully back its internal trade with those commodities, even while using national currencies, so guaranteeing payments effectively in energy or gold terms? Does that maybe achieve the goal of undermining dollar dominance just as effectively, perhaps even more realistically, than trying to create a whole new single currency?
Think about the strategic power of that kind of commodity anchor, even without a single currency name on it. What does that do to the system?
Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Our pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.